had a sack and a fumble recovery turned into a 15-yard penalty and a field goal. This on the heels of the wacky Brady penalty on Sunday. Here's Jones after the game with a possible solution. Take a listen.
From the ref point of view, he probably looked like that initially, but and when you look at the replay, it's a whole different thing. So I think now to evolve roughing the passer and protecting the quarterback is essentially what we're doing in this league. We got to be able to look at roughing the passers in the booth. I'm trying my best. I'm 25 pounds, okay? What you want me to do? What you want me to do? I'm running full speed trying to get the quarterback. I hit the ball. What you want me to do? I brace my hands. So I think it's like taking the initiative to extend to look at roughing the passers now as a league, like they did pass interference a couple years back, where we can view the pass interference. I think that's now the next level we're going to have to take as a league for all these roughing the passers.
I'll give you my answer. Love it. Makes total sense, Broussard. Do you like it?
Absolutely. It's a must. These calls are too critical, and these games are too big for this to happen now. All right, and I just think, look, the rule says, and I think Chris Jones was being nice. He really was going out of his way to be nice. But the rule says if you unnecessarily throw down a quarterback violently or land on him and, put your weight on him. Yep. But sometimes, like, what was Chris Jones supposed to do?
Nothing.
How in the world could he not land on Derek Carr? Maybe if he tries to go to his right, he might take out Reed's knees. Who knows? You know what I mean? Do they want you to just set the quarterback down nicely? That's almost what they're asking. And he's right. They want the biggest men on the field to be ballerinas. And we got to sack the quarterback, but then also shift our weight to not land on him, set him down nicely. It is ridiculous, and they absolutely need the replay for this.
They do need the replay. However, when you think about the NFL and what they don't want to do is disrupt the flow of the game. And so with adding a replay, it's kind of like what happened a couple years ago with offensive pass interference, defensive pass interference. You go to replay the following year, it was completely terrible. It took too long. They still got it wrong.
People were still upset.
They were still upset. So it doesn't really matter. I think you're going to still be upset. But you have to do something, whether it's at the 2-minute mark, whatever in the waning moments of the game. You can't allow this.
So you don't think it should just be replay?
Maybe it can be a challengeable thing.
It can be. You got to do something. You have to do something because this could have easily changed the landscape of the game. It wasn't the biggest play, but it could have easily changed the landscape of the game.
Okay, so I want to caution one thing about let's make roughing the passer reviewable. I promise you, America, what we don't want is for you to be able to challenge uncalled roughing the passer. That will be a disaster. If you want to make it to where if the flag is thrown, you can challenge a flag that's been thrown, but what you don't want is for you. What would be wrong with that? Because there will be
too many plays.
There will be so many plays at the end of games where upon review it's like, oh, did his arm graze the quarterback's helmet? Oh, is this I have seen that train come down the tracks before about what if we make everything reviewable? It never works out well. So if you want to make it reviewable only on things that have been flagged, that's fine. But the bigger conversation is this, and this is what I want to bounce off you, Wilds. So what we heard on the broadcast, and what you heard on Twitter and all of it, is they kept bringing up what happened to Tua. And these are unrelated issues, but they are also directly related. Mm-hmm. So they are unrelated in this way. You can say, I want the NFL to have a concussion protocol that it follows for all players, and one that errs on the side of caution, and also say, I don't want phantom roughing the passer penalties to call. And those things should be able to happen on separate tracks. However, this is what I posit is going on. The NFL this weekend made a new rule out of nowhere. If any player shows any signs of a concussion, they're out of the game.
Yep.
And you know what they don't want? What happened to Teddy Bridgewater happening to anybody, which is, oh man, our new rules show you stumbled, you're now done for the game. And so the unintended consequence of the new concussion rule is going to be they are going to try to eliminate, essentially, all hits on the quarterback.
Oh.
Because any of them can end up knocking the quarterback out for the game under the new rules. So this is the butterfly effect, if you will, of them saying any signs of ataxia, you're done for the game. And we all applauded it. We all said, yes, that's what needs to happen. But I'm telling you right now, while quarterbacks' brains aren't more valuable than the brains of any of the other players, we're really talking about protecting quarterbacks. They are making it clear to the refs, make these defenders cautious about any hit on the quarterback, because we don't want any of these quarterbacks ruled out of the game by our new rules. That's what's happening. If you saw the first 2 sacks of the game, they just grabbed them. The sack on Mahomes and the sack on Carr, they just grabbed them. I truly believe that's the direction we're going. I truly believe that is the only way for the NFL to be able to follow its own concussion protocol rules and protect the quarterbacks the way they want to protect them is to make it to where every time there is a big sack, people expect a flag. I think that's the path we're headed
When
down.
Mahomes got thrown down, the Arrowhead crowd went crazy
because it
looked very similar to Brady. What I think is difficult is you can support, not wanting to see huge hits on the quarterback, but at the same time, the very principles of that would be protected by this rule are largely against it. So I pulled some tweets here. So it's Micah Parsons, defensive player. You could guess, hey, they want us playing like we're playing the Pro Bowl.
I think
doesn't like it. I get it. You're a defensive player. RG3, I'm all for player safety, but it's still supposed to be tackle football. That's RG3. I thought was very interesting. A guy whose career kind of went on a different path because he got hit. Sean Payton, a coach, says it was an awful call. Brady, in his podcast, and he's also said in the postgame, was like, you know what, I don't throw the flags. But he's a guy who has had his career extended because of additional protection, specifically when he got his knee taken out. Also, media QBs, Troy on the broadcast had concussions. His career shortened.
Yep.
Alex Smith on the podcast with Pablo Torre, his career went sideways because of big hit. But all of those guys who would theoretically should be on the side of protect the quarterbacks because our careers went left are all for fewer protections, or at least not what we're seeing right now. So I don't know where the momentum is going to be if your very guys who would be protected don't believe in it.
Because Joe Burrow was right. People might want to get mad with what Joe Burrow said. He said, look, it's a violent game. Injuries will happen. Unless you're going to make it flag football, injuries will happen. It's like boxing to some degree. It's violent. And do we want football or do we not? I'm not saying don't try to make it as safe as you can within a certain context, but you can't, like what you said is scary, Nick. Like Micah Parsons said in the Pro Bowl, I know he's being facetious.
I think that's how they want quarterbacks to be treated.
That's ridiculous. You will never see like real sacks anymore.
Yeah, I think that's what they want.
But when you think of the Pro Bowl, the reason why the Pro Bowl is no more the way that it was constructed is because it's not engaging, it's not entertaining. You can't take away a competitive advantage. And that's what I feel like is happening in the National Football League to defenders, in particularly pass rushers or anybody that's in pursuit of the quarterback. You're taking away a competitive advantage because now they have to think about or consider, how do I get this guy down to the ground?
But if it's being called uniformly for both teams, is that just like, well, that's what it is. That's the new normal.
So I'm with you on a point you made. You can't just allow them to just review or call it however they want to call it. If you are disputing it, they should be allowed to throw a challenge flag. That, in my opinion, eliminates the issue. Because you're not going to review everything. You're going to review the ones that are being challenged.
What I'm trying to make very clear is we have seen them multiple times change a rule because a quarterback was knocked out with an injury.
Sure.
Brady rule, the body weight rules because Anthony Barr landed on Rodgers. We now have a rule across the league that says for any player, if he shows any signs, Teddy Bridgewater still has not shown a single concussion sign.
Right.
He is in the concussion protocol because of something everyone in the media uniformly demanded they do. The NFL said, okay, we will change our rules midstream. What they are not going to be in the business of is having it regularly happen that the stars of their league are ruled out of games because they took a big hit. And so what they are clearly telling their refs to do, it is not a coincidence that right when the concussion rules changed, we had our first 2 awful roughing the passer penalties. The referees are clearly the league has told them, hey, we have to even more protect these guys now because they're more likely to be ruled out of the game. That is what has happened here. And for people to act like they're unrelated events, they're not unrelated events. They are worried about keeping their quarterbacks on the field because the product suffers when they're not out there. And so if we want the new concussion rules, which we all did, the way people hit quarterbacks is going to change drastically.
That's terrible.
Okay. No. Maybe it's good.
No.
It takes away from the game.
It does. And what Greg was right. You stop the defenders.
Good news. Talking analytics next. Josh McDaniels, what are you doing? Nick loves
Your
it.
guy.
Yeah.
Nick
He's not my
was
guy.
the right call.
Josh McDaniels not my guy.
It's